Hey guys, Heidi Allen here, Energy Alchemist, and I'm going to be diving deep into my story of how I became an energy alchemist. So, as a child, I was very quiet and shy. I almost failed first grade because I wouldn't speak. So, I was very smart. The teacher went to my mom and said, "Hey, your daughter's really intelligent, but she has not said a word the entire year, so I'm going to have to fail her and she's going to have to redo first grade." So anyways, I had to work with my mom and figure out, and I said the bare minimum, right? The bare minimum amount of words just to pass and get to the second grade. So that's kind of a little bit about my childhood, the family dynamics and just social conditioning in general, right? That everybody gets to some degree when they're growing up. I basically built the story in my mind when I was young that it was easier to be quiet and to people please, to avoid any conflict and to just keep people happy. That was easier for me, right? So, I really was like that for basically over 40 years. So just stay quiet, don't ruffle any feathers, try to be perfect, and then everything will be smooth in your life and you'll keep everybody happy. That's basically what I live by. So then, as I got older, when I was 14, I was walking down the hallway in high school. So I lived in Florida at the time. We had an outdoor hallway and I was looking for my locker. And I realized that I couldn't see the locker numbers. So then I was like, well, this is interesting. It's like all the locker numbers were gone and then the lockers themselves were disappearing. So I was having these visual disturbances and I had no idea, what it was. I was confused. But little did I know that at that time, that was just the beginning of my journey with debilitating migraines. So then for 20 years of my life, I struggled with headaches. So I would get headaches, probably 4 to 5 days a week, and then these debilitating migraines. Sometimes I would get 2 to 3 in a week. Sometimes I would go a couple months and not get a migraine at all. There didn't seem to be a pattern or anything I could identify. I tried at all the food journals and all that stuff to try to see what was causing it. What happens when I get a migraine is first I get the blurry vision, like I mentioned. So, there'll be things that will completely disappear. Like I could be talking to Dr. Mike and I wouldn't even see his head or I wouldn't see parts of his body, and it's a very interesting dynamic, but it's like then you know what's coming next, right? So that's always the beginning. It's called a migraine aura. For any people who get migraines, I'm sorry if you do, but it's very common to get the migraine aura at the start of it. Then after that, you get excruciating pain on one side of your head. It's like the pain that I get is debilitating. I can't function. If I am somewhere, I have to leave. I have to go home. I have to go into a dark room. So it's completely debilitating pain. Then I get nausea and vomiting. So I'm basically lying on the bathroom floor, right? And so right near the toilet, feel really sick for hours. The pain is that bad that it makes you like physically ill and nauseous. Then I also get sensitive to light, so I have to have a dark room. Any sort of stimulation is too much for me. So no sound, no smells, anything like that just makes the whole situation worse. And the only way for me to get through them, I found over the years, was to completely shut down and fall asleep. So basically, I had to isolate myself, go into a dark room, have zero stimulation, lay down and fall asleep. And then I would fall asleep for about 4 to 5 hours. So I couldn't just sleep for an hour. That wasn't long enough. It needed to be more, like 4 or 5 hours. And then I would wake up and then I would call I would say like a migraine hangover is what I call it. So then I would have, that for about 24 to 48 hours. And it's kind of like a hangover after drinking, right? You just kind of feel out of it. But one thing for me is like completely drained of energy. I don't even look the same. It's like my eyes are dark. I have, just completely drained of like any sort of vital force, life energy, anything. Somewhat depressed at that point, sad. And so that happens for about 2 days, a day or two. And then I slowly get back into my, regular life.
One thing that's super striking about Heidi and her migraines, she sent me a photograph of her just after a migraine and then what she looked like prior to the migraine. And it is shocking. She has beautiful green eyes, and in the picture with the migraine, her eyes actually turn brown and dark. And for me, I never saw anybody do that except in a horror movie. So that was like pretty wild. And we'll be posting some photos of the migraine before, after, etc., like Heidi's talking about. But if you want something that you can see and believe, these before and after pictures of her face with the migraines is really quite shocking. And it's not just the eyes, but the whole face. I mean, she changes into somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
someone lifeless. Really.
yeah. I mean, it's all drained, almost corpse-like.
Yeah.
You know, when she's having the migraine. And tell us what you said before you texted me that picture, that before and after picture, the side by side. Tell everybody what you said when you looked at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah. So when I got a migraine the last time, I really made a point to understand more about them and how I felt during them, right? Just so I can dig in and understand it from a deeper perspective. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't even recognize myself. It was like I was staring at just something lifeless and empty. It was really bizarre because just before that happened, it's like you have a sparkle in your eye, you have vibrancy, you have joy in your voice, and then it was just a completely different person. So that was really eye-opening for me when I actually paused and took a moment in that time to figure out, what is going on with my body, with my energy, with everything at that point. It was really helpful that it was painful that happened, right? But also helpful too, because I was able to see it in a different light. So then going back to my story, 20 years, I had been working with, more Western medicine modalities, right? I mean, I had multiple neurologists. I had many MRIs done, just to rule out anything big as to why I was getting these migraines. And so, when I would go to neurologists, they would prescribe medicine, right? So I was like, okay, give me whatever you can. Like, give me whatever you got because I need to get help, right? So first we started with medication that I could take when I got a migraine, so to end the pain. So, I tried all sorts of narcotics, different types of medications. I remember being at work and going into the bathroom, injecting multiple, things into my leg to try to get the pain to go away. And unfortunately for me, nothing worked. If anything, it made it worse. Like, I'm really sensitive to medications. And so I would take these medications and it would like speed up my heart rate, but yet I would still be in pain and I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. So it's just like anything that I tried just wasn't working for me. Or I would take pain medicine, and I'm such a lightweight. I could take half of a pain med and, I'm not even acting like myself all day. Or this nausea medicine that would make me extremely lethargic. So it's like the whole point of me to take the medications was to be able to, quote unquote, get back to my daily life. And it wasn't, it was making it worse. So not only was I having the migraine, but then I was also having the side effects of these medications that were supposed to help. So then we kind of switched gears to more preventative medication. So things that I could take to not have a migraine in the first place, right? So, status quo, I have lower blood pressure. And then, then the doctor says, well, one avenue that we can take is to give you a medicine that lowers your blood pressure because that's been known to prevent migraines. Well, so then I'm taking that medicine and I'm feeling lightheaded, feeling like I'm going to faint every time I stand up. And so it's just, I was kind of being put into a box of, you have these ailments and these are the pills that you need to take, but nothing for me was working, at that time. So then the last step was to take anti-seizure medication. And I really had to think about that because there's a lot of side effects to that medication, slower down your thinking, difficulty with speaking, speech, and stuff like that. And so that was just too far for me. So that's where I completely felt, defective, fearful, and hopeless, right? I had for 20 years talked to so many doctors and had so many tests done and tried so many things and nothing worked. And I just felt completely deflated. Like there was no other route for me to go at that point. And that's a horrible feeling. So I'm sorry if any of you are in that place right now, but there is hope.
A lot of you may be struggling with other ailments and difficulties. Heidi's giving her story about dealing with her lifelong struggle with migraines, but many of you may have other issues. You might have random pain. You might have, trauma triggers that keep coming up at times where you don't want them to come up. PTSD, PDD. There's a lot of different issues that we are sure a lot of you watching this struggle, and you're looking for answers. You're like, okay, I've had this all my life. I've had this for 5 years. I've had this for 10 years. I've tried different things and nothing seems to work. So what do you do? Where do you go? You may have gotten a diagnosis and you don't know what to do with that. So we're going to talk a little bit. Heidi's going to talk a little bit about her story and an option that worked for her.
So then, when I was in that space of just feeling hopeless and like there wasn't another way, I mean, my personality is I don't give up, right? I'm going to keep going and trying new things. There's got to be avenues out there that can help me. So then at that point, I actually met with a chiropractic neurologist. So this was about 10 to 12 years ago. And he was referred to me through somebody else. And so I met with him, and he kind of took it from the approach of, well, maybe it's not that, you should be focusing on the fact that you feel you're defective. You're not defective. Maybe there's just something, certain things that my body didn't like, right? So, I mean, there's something circulating in your body. When it gets to your brain, it's just too much. There's so many variables, and when these things compound, and then it results in your body kind of freaking out, right? And that's what would happen is it would be pain. It would induce pain. And so then he said, maybe start looking at things from a different angle. Not that you're defective, but how can you support your body in a different way, so that you can avoid these triggers from happening. So then I started diving deep into more holistic methods. That made sense to me. Just him having that, 5 minute conversation with me, was a real eye opener. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Like maybe I'm not defective. Maybe there are other things, outside influences that play here that I can control, right? That can make a difference. So then I started changing my diet, eating more organic. I mean, not eating as much sugar, kind of laying off sweets, focusing more on how I felt when I ate certain foods. So not cutting, foods out entirely, right? I believe in like 80-20, right? You need to have a little bit of fun, have some treats every now and then. But how do you feel when you have them? So that's what I started focusing on more. Then I started cleaning up my environment. Is there certain smells that didn't really sit well with me? I mean, I was the type that like you go in the laundry detergent aisle at Target, it was like kind of gives you a headache, right? It's just like, that's too much for me. So then I was like, well, maybe all these smells aren't good for me. I used to douse myself in Bath and Body Works lotion and perfume and use bleach, to clean. And so then I thought, well, maybe all these are contributors. So then I started, slowly weeding that type of stuff out of my life and using more natural products. I started doing chiropractic care, some more hands-on chiropractic care. And then I dove into essential oils for a long time too, and use those not only to support me physically, but also mentally too. There's a lot of calming aspects, stress relieving aspects of essential oils. And then they also can help with your immune system. So I started diving deep into essential oils for a long time as well. So doing all of this actually made a really big impact. So I'd say my migraines, and headaches in general got about, 60 to 70% better, which is a huge win, right? Like that's amazing. you're not getting migraines, as much, you're not having headaches as much. And so that should be considered a win. But for me, it wasn't enough. Like, I didn't want to have to worry about the next time I would have a migraine or a headache. I knew that there was another way. I had already made so much progress that, like, in my heart, I knew that there was more I could do. So then that is where I started delving into looking at things from even a different angle, right? I had been supporting my body for so long physically, but what was I missing? What else wasn't I supporting?
A lot of you go down the same path that Heidi went down. You're looking at one aspect. I mean, she started to make great progress when she started moving into the holistics and the nutrition and the body care, and then, knew there was still something not there. Something was still missing. She wasn't 100% where she needed to be. So, this is where she continued her search. Many of you might be just totally stuck and haven't made the progress that she has made so far, but you also might be in a situation where you've made some progress and you're looking to make the rest of the progress.
Right. So then, as I was searching, so this was about a year ago, I was really in the mode of searching for something additional than what I had already tried for holistic care. And so I started kind of tapping into the mental aspect. I was noticing that there were a lot of aspects to me mentally that I felt were out of control, right? I had small bouts of anxiety and I was fearful. So I started kind of focusing on more of the mindset component. I had some situations happen that were, I would say, traumatic, in the past 3 years, and I didn't handle those well. So at that point, I was searching for more tools to use for my mind. Um, so then a year ago, we were doing some leadership training at my work, and we outsourced with a college to have a trainer come in and work with our teams on their supervisory skills, leadership skills, conflict resolution. So then my boss came to me and is like, "Hey, we're going to do a Zoom, and I want to get your take, on this person that we're going to bring in to help train the supervisors." So then we get in a Zoom call, and that is where I meet Dr. Mike for the first time. Was over Zoom. And so he was talking about his background and all of the stuff that he had been working on. And I was like locked in right away. I was like, who is this guy? Like, the energy that he brought was contagious, And so I was like, okay, this is a perfect fit, not only for the company that I work for training. That's exactly what we needed. But I also know that there's more, right? That there's more that he can, provide. So then when he came, he was gracious enough to, in between the coaching sessions with our teams, he was at our facility. So he said people can stop in for one-on-one coaching. And so I was like, okay, like when he comes in, I'm totally going to be in there and asking questions because I need help, and I think this guy can help me. And so, the first time I went in and met with him, he asked a lot of questions about, what is your background, kind of what have you been dealing with, what would you like help with? And I went into, my story and, a little bit about my childhood. But honestly, like back then, even a year ago, right, I was such a different person. Like when he asked me about my childhood, I thought it was great, right? I said, "Oh, yeah, my childhood was great. There was no issues there, everything was fine." But now looking back, my childhood was not fine, right? And so I had built this story around these things that I had picked up through, school, family members, just society, anybody that you come into contact with about that not speaking my voice, right? So while I have wonderful memories from my childhood, there's like this underlying tone of me not feeling like I should be authentic, use my voice, that I shouldn't say my opinion because I wanted to make sure that everyone around me was happy, right? I was people pleasing. And so, here's even an example of that people pleasing mentality is, my husband's the opposite of me. he tells it like it is, right? So if you ask him his opinion, he's gonna, say it straight up. And so there's a funny story that we laugh about now, but about, 15 years ago, we would go out to eat at a restaurant. And, one time I got buffalo wings there and I was like, oh my gosh, these are the worst buffalo wings I've ever had. Like these suck, they're so bad. And so then we were kind of joking about it, right? So then we were meeting up with another couple and we were talking about restaurants and stuff. And the couple said, oh, you know what? Like, we really like this restaurant and we really like the buffalo wings. And then, he knew that I couldn't stand the buffalo wings. But what did I do? I said, oh, yeah, they're pretty good. Like I didn't say what I truly thought. It's something so stupid as buffalo wings, right? But it just goes to show that's how I had always been. I never would say my opinion, right? Because I was like, oh, well, if they like the buffalo wings, I don't want to make it weird and like tell them what I think about it. So I'm just going to bypass it and be like, oh, no, yeah, they're really good and go on. But then my husband, Mike, he called me out on it. He's like, what are you doing? What do you mean they're good? He's like, you just were saying a couple of weeks ago how they're the worst wings that you've ever had. And so at that moment I was like panicked, right? It's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like you're speaking my truth for me and I don't want these people to be upset, if they know what I really think and stuff. So it was actually like a source of contention back then, right? Because I never had done that for myself, spoke, and I felt super uncomfortable when somebody knew like my opinion and when it didn't match theirs. And so I like, after that conversation, I was like, you never do that to me again. Like, you never speak my truth for me. I'm going to hide this stuff because I don't want it to feel awkward. And you made it feel awkward. And that made me angry. Right. So that was back then. Like, I didn't even realize it then what I was doing to myself. Right. It was just, I was trying to keep the peace, but I was actually, hiding who I truly was and not being authentic and just ship shaping to what I thought people wanted me to be. Right. So that's like, looking back at that story now, it's really eye opening because that's how I was living my whole life. And back then I wasn't ready to hear it. I wasn't ready to face it, deal with it. Instead, I just said, don't ever do that again. Haha, like that was weird. And now let's move on. But now looking back at that story, I think holding all that stuff in is what was the reason for me having this pain, right? Is like I wasn't living my authentic self. I wasn't expressing myself in how like my heart and soul wanted me to. I was expressing myself how other people wanted me to, and it was affecting me physically, which was which was wild. So then, sitting in the room with Dr. Mike, I think he could see some of that in me, right? Like I didn't even know that at the time. I was just telling my story, but I think he could see that there was stuff there. So then he mentioned, hey, what do you think about like trauma clearing or chakra balancing, to work through some of this stuff? Maybe it has something to do with your pain, your headaches, your migraines. I was a little bit mentally unstable at that time, anxious, all that stuff. And so I was like, well, what the heck? Like, I don't have any trauma. I'm fine. Like, my childhood was good. I don't have any trauma. Um, and so I thought it was actually kind of off the wall, like chakra. I didn't even know what a chakra was. I was like, what are you talking about? Chakra clearing? Like, do I have chakras? I didn't even know that. So,
Yeah, I had a little bit of a tip off with Heidi though, because when she started talking about her childhood, her voice was very, very strained. And it was almost like irritating to hear her talk because she's like, and let me tell you about my childhood, and this happened with my dad or with this. It was really weird to me as a speaker, seeing so many people around the country and speaking, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with this woman? Why can't she get this out? And it wasn't all the time. It was mostly when she was talking about something that was painful out of her childhood. So I'm like, okay, well, there's like a key area that I need to zone in on because she doesn't talk right. Okay. And then now you hear her speak and she's fine, but you didn't see her a year ago.
no.
You weren't in the room with her to hear her use this kind of strained weird voice. You definitely wouldn't watch any videos of hers. I can tell you that. I was having a hard time in the room for 10
Gee.
minutes. I was like, okay, well, I know something's wrong, so it's like let's definitely work on that. So that was a key, the voice. And there, you have a chakra, a throat chakra, and I knew that that was blocked. So it's like, okay, well, I know you got a blocked throat chakra, so we can for sure work on that. And then as far as the migraines go, that ties in with the childhood trauma. And, when we say childhood trauma, you think, oh, well, I wasn't abused as a kid or something. You don't need to be abused as a child. I mean, she didn't go through
Mm-mm.
physical abuse. She wasn't locked in a closet for a month
I had a
and
great
stuff.
childhood. It was
It-
just,
yeah,
yeah,
it just wasn't right.
just
But
certain things, great childhood, but just certain things that really got ingrained in my mind from all these situations that I didn't take care of. So it just kept building up and building up throughout my life. Yeah.
so my point is, everybody has had some
Mm-hmm.
problems in their childhood. There's something there. It doesn't have to, I mean, it could be major abuse, but it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about trauma, I'm talking about, maybe a fifth grade teacher told you were dumb, and then everybody laughed at you and you got that stuck in your head and you can't get that out. Maybe you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend when you were 14 years old and they said something about your nose or about
Mm-hmm.
your hair, and you got that in your head that, oh, I'm screwed up because of this, or I have this problem. So childhood trauma, teenage trauma, that usually sets in, and it runs as a repeated
Mm-hmm.
subconscious template that you don't know how to get out, that you can't get out. And the way to get that out is with chakra balancing, chakra clearing, etc. But again, like Heidi says, most people don't know what that is, never heard of it. Energy work, what is that? That's some kind of like weird thing I saw in a fiction movie at some point in time, but it's not. Okay, it's something that actually works, and it
Mm-hmm.
can help probably 95% of the population with some sort of issue that they have that's running as a negative subconscious template that they can't get out of their head.
Right. And I mean, he mentioned the throat chakra. And although I didn't know what a throat chakra was, I could feel it. When I tried to talk, it felt strange, like I couldn't get the words out. So now learning more about chakras, it all makes sense. Right. But back then I was like, geez, this is so weird. Like all I'm doing is trying to talk about myself to this guy or to anybody, in a meeting talking about certain things. And it's like, why does my voice and throat physically feel strained? Well, now it makes sense, but back then it was just frustrating. um, so then, after thinking about it for a while, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give this a shot, right? I'm open minded. And really at this point, like, I'm pretty much ready, like, willing to try anything to get relief from migraines and headaches and, kind of get my mental strength a little bit more in check. And so I was like, sure, why not? Let's give it a shot. So then he's like, okay, we'll do a trauma clearing session, at my place. And then immediately I was like, oh no, what if we are doing the session and I don't say anything? What if nothing comes to my head? What if it's silent? Already I was like running that people pleasing, templating in my mind, that I was like, what is he going to think if I don't say anything? What is it going to be like, if things don't go as planned? So but then I tried to go past that, and then we did it ended up we did a
Let's hold up here. So the first session was held right here.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
right
my
here.
studio that we're recording in.
Hmm.
Call it a studio, call it a healing room, etc. But this room that we're in right now is where I do this energy work. Okay. And so it wasn't just, hey, maybe I won't say anything. It's like, why am I going to this guy's house? Okay. And I told her, I said, like, did you tell your husband you're coming here or where you're going or where you're going to be? Because a lot of times people are like, well, why am I going to this person's place? I mean, it's like, what's going to happen there? This is like weird. You're going to get in this room. This guy's going to shut the lights off. He's going to light some candles. He's going to play some weird chakra music, and he's going to get me into a meditative state and like clear my migraines and my chakras. Okay, I get it, folks.
Yeah.
It sounds weird.
Yeah.
All right.
It
To the
does.
average person, it sounds weird. She's
Yeah.
very educated. She's
Yeah.
very knowledgeable. She's studied holistics for
Mhm.
over 10 years, and it still sounded strange. However,
Right.
it's not that strange once you understand and you have a background and you have knowledge in this. It doesn't seem strange at all. So you have a couple of hurdles that you have to get over
Mhm.
when you start this work and when you listen to this kind of stuff, because I've been doing this in actuality since I was 17 years old. I had a trainer that started teaching me this before it became popular, before it came interesting, before it came unique on YouTube and on Instagram, etc. But she didn't have any
No.
knowledge of this,
No idea.
what we
Yeah.
do now. So
Mhm.
this was all brand new to Heidi
Right.
like a year ago. So you're
Mhm.
looking at her a year into this,
Yep.
where she is right now. So this isn't something she's done for 20 or 30 years.
No.
This was like 1 year ago.
Mhm.
Okay. So I want everybody to realize that you need to take action. It's not something you can watch this video and go, oh, wow, Heidi Allen, Energy Alchemist. That's an amazing story. That's unique. That's interesting. But it doesn't work for me, or I'm not interested in it, or that's cool. That sounds weird. Let's go on to something else. It's like, no, we're here so that you folks can hear this message and recognize that these are things that can help you. It can help you with your mental state, your body condition, your spirit, your motivation. Go
Right.
ahead.
Yep. Um, so then back to when I came for the first session.
Session one.
Session one. And so I was like, oh man, like, probably feeling like how a lot of you would if you were driving to a place where you didn't know what to expect and stuff. But I felt in me that it was something that I had to try. So my advice is, if any of you feel any inkling that something could work for you, go for it. Just try it, try it once, see if it works for you. If it does, fantastic. You're out nothing, right? And so I'm so glad that I tried it. It was definitely out of my wheelhouse. I was like, this is kind of weird. I'm going to this guy's house. It's like 50 minutes away from my house. But you know what? There was something in me that was like, just try it, right? So then I show up and I'm like, all right. So then we had it's a cool vibe, right? It's super peaceful, relaxing. I was still a little bit in my head. I was like, I'm not really sure how this is going to go. But so I laid on a chakra chair and it was a really calming environment. And then I felt like completely at peace. So then I was kind of like in this meditative state, zone. And then I cried for hours. When we were done, I was like, oh yeah, that was like kind of a while crying, like, 20 or 30 minutes. He's like, no, that was like 3 or 4 hours of you crying. And I was like, holy crap, I just got all of this stuff out of me. I don't even remember the specifics of what I said. All I remember is how good it felt to get it out. I was just like it was just like pouring out of me. It was just waiting to be released, And I mean, the things that help with that, like when he put his hand on my throat, I mean, normally that's freaky, right? You have some guy like putting his hand on your throat. But it felt like what I had been needing, right? Like soothing, calming, and it also helped me speak my voice, so that was key. I didn't know why it was working. I just knew it was working, so I rolled with it. I'm like, I don't know why he's putting his hand on my throat. And frankly, I don't care because it feels good. And then I can get all this stuff out, right? So that's kind of like the mode that I was in. So that first session was really eye-opening for me. I mean, I got so much out afterwards. You're exhausted, right? Because you've got all this stuff out, but also I felt so good and empowered, right? Because I was like, oh, I got that out of my voice, all out of me, and I took action. And then and then I was like, okay, when can we do that again? Right? Like,
Yeah.
what if there's more stuff that needs to come out?
Yeah. Well, the first session, from my perspective, and like I said, this wasn't new to me, so it's always a little bit different with a new person. But I mean, I told you before, I had the heads up with the migraines, I had the heads up with the throat, the speaking, And when she's talking about me putting my hand on her throat, I'm not like choking her,
No.
saying, "Hey, get it out," shaking her. It's called healing
That would be
touch.
awkward.
It's called, yeah, that would be awkward. Yeah, I wouldn't be here anyway. So they call that, in modern day, we call this Reiki or healing touch. So it's not a massage. It's not a Swedish massage. It's not a massage. It's called healing touch. So I put my hands on not just her throat, but the neck, the shoulders, the head, wherever a person is experiencing pain or trauma. You use your hands to trace what's called the meridian lines. You have a blood circulatory system in your body, you have a nervous system in your body, but you also have an energy system in your body. And most people don't like know about that or talk about that or anything. And we're going to be making a separate video where I'm going to demonstrate some of what I did with Heidi in regard to the chakra chair, the meditative state, etc. But for the point of explaining it here, I just want people to know that it's called healing touch. It's very light touch. It's running your hand along meridian lines, fingers, everything. Your whole body has this whole energy system, hence energy alchemists. This is kind of our area of expertise, and our specialization is to work with people in regard to energy centers, chakras, energy flow, etc. So clearing, chakra clearing, is the concept of clearing the throat chakra so that now she feels liberated, she can speak her voice, she feels empowered. The other aspect is getting the trauma out. That's called third eye chakra, centered in the forehead, and crown chakra on the top of the head. So her childhood traumas are cleared through third eye and through crown chakra. So it's more than just like one thing. Your chakra is cleared in 3 hours. Boom, you can speak right now. Go out of here. It takes multiple sessions, but her first session was what's called a decompression. So she was able to relax, decompress, get it out, and become more clear. That gives the feeling of liberation. I don't feel traumatized anymore. We get into regression resolution, where you come to grips with experiences that happened to you in your past. But the first session, a lot of times, is a crying session. So I got 3 or 4 boxes of Kleenex in here. So I'm ready for doing the first session with lots of people. We have a semi come out here and deliver Kleenex. But anyway, all right. So after the first session, what happened?
Yeah, so then after the first session, first I was mind blown, right? Because I was like, okay, what just happened? How did time fly by? And I didn't know, and I got all this stuff out. But then, the more I thought about it, um, it was just energizing, right? So then I could feel like the energy in me, and especially my throat, you know, just kind of evolving and changing. So I was like, there's something to this. Back then, I didn't understand what was necessarily happening, but I was like, there's something to this. So I need to dig into this deeper. So then it was clear to me at that point in time that the missing link for me was I wasn't focusing on my mind and soul. I was focusing on my body. And so that's when a year ago, I really dove deep. I mean, we're talking like any extra time I have into learning more about this methodology, and then being consistent in working on Dr. Mike with these concepts. So then it was apparent to me, we've been working together for about a year. And throughout that whole time frame, it was almost immediate that my headaches, so I used to get headaches, maybe once or twice a week, didn't really know what brought them on. Had some holistic remedies I would do or take. And if it got too bad, I would take ibuprofen. But those, in the beginning started fading away. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So there is an impact here, but I needed to understand how and why, right? That's how I operate. It's like, okay, what is this doing to me so that I can relieve, some of these symptoms? And I wanted to understand more about the energy aspect. So at that point, no migraines, nothing. And then December rolls around and I get a migraine, right? So I hadn't had a migraine the whole time. And in your head, you can get stuck in this thought that, like, oh, I'm cured. So after working with Dr. Mike for many months, I mean, my headaches were getting much more few and far between. I mean, it was noticeable pretty much in the beginning of us working together. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. This is working. So then in December, I had a migraine, the first migraine that I had had since pretty much a year before. And so, at some points that can feel defeating, right? It's like, oh, I thought I was cured, and, why is this happening to me? But this time, through working with Dr. Mike, I learned about the mindset piece, and about looking at things from a different angle. You're not a victim, things aren't happening to you. There's a reason why things happen. So I had a different approach this time around when I got it. I wanted to dig into, why did I get this migraine? And I took it from the approach of, what in me isn't healed yet, to where I am having this migraine. So, I mean, after some, I discussed it with Dr. Mike and worked through it. I mean, it was an old trauma wound, right? So it was some things that we were working on. Healing is a ever evolving process. It's not like you can wake up one day and be like, all my traumas are gone. I have no issues. My mind is 100%. I mean, as you go through life, things are going to come up and things are going to trigger stuff within you. The difference in me now is, now I can recognize that and look for the lesson, and right. And so I learned that this one was from an old trauma wound that I still had to heal from, right? So we did the work, we worked through it. But also, what was interesting about this one, the one that I got, was it was way less severe. I wasn't vomiting, I wasn't, the pain was there, but it was way more manageable. And then it had, I learned tools for the recovery of it, right? So through working with Dr. Mike, I was learning, okay, um, there's an energy aspect to this. So that is why I took the time in that moment, as I said earlier, to look in the mirror, really look at myself, say, what am I feeling from an energy perspective now? And it was gone. It was completely drained, right? I had no energy. But what I did know is I had learned the tools to bring that energy back, right? Whereas before, when I would get a migraine, it would be days of feeling hopeless and being drained and feeling like a zombie, really. But now, within a very short time, I was able to accept it for what it was. I knew the root of it. I knew that there was something that I needed to heal, both mentally and emotionally. And then I used the tools that I had learned over the past year for building your energy, transforming energy, to bring myself back to where I was before the migraine very fast. I mean, we're talking a half a day, right? So it's like, before it would be 2 days down and out, depressed, hopeless, to, okay, I got the migraine, I dealt with it. It was way less severe. And then now I know what's key for me and what's empowering for me is I know how to build myself back up. So not only now do I know how to prevent, I try to find the triggers beforehand, work through them beforehand, but then I'm not fearful. If something were to happen in the future, then I know how to, first of all, make it less intense, and then I know how to recover from it so much quicker and build my energy back up. And it doesn't have to be complicated, right? When I used to hear about like energy work, and when we first talked about it, I would be like, first of all, like, what do you mean energy work? Like, how do I build it up? It's simple things, you guys. It's something as simple as, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness? Going on a walk. So after my migraine, it's like, okay, what are the things I can do to build myself up? Okay, I need to like just clear my mind, and nature does that for me. When I get outside, if I go on a walk and I'm alone, I want to be by myself. I went on a walk, and already it's like, okay, that brought my energy up to here. And it's like, okay, what else can I do? I love music. I love to dance. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to use another tool. So then it brought me up a little bit more. I also love to meditate now. I never used to meditate a year ago. I was like, what is meditating? I can't sit quiet. My mind's always thinking. I'm always, he calls it monkey mind. I'm always thinking about things. Um, but now through practice, right? I mean, I'm talking daily practice. Now I can meditate, right? And it's easy for me, and it builds my energy up, right? So I just did all of these tools that I had learned, and I utilize them all to build myself up way faster. And so that's a game changer. And that anyone can do that. Anyone can do these things once they learn them, right? You need a coach, and you need someone to show you that you can control your energy levels, your frequency, how you feel, through taking a customized approach for yourself, right? Not everybody's the same. So I wouldn't say, somebody else would be maybe energized from being in nature. That's me. But then we have to work and figure out, what are your energy giving activities, for yourself. Everybody is different, right? People aren't all the same. So it's kind of working through, which we work together and determine, how do you feel when you're doing these activities. So my focus is I want to be boosting my energy. I don't want to be draining. I want to be boosting. Now I'm knowledgeable enough to understand what boosts, what drains, and I know where my focus can be. And this is a consistent practice, right? It's not like you just meditate twice and you're like, it didn't work for me. Like, I don't know what's supposed to happen. I mean, I used to be frustrated meditating. I would cry, during a meditation, because I felt like I was a failure. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this isn't working for me, So then we would talk through it, and he's like, okay, well, why do you feel sad when you're meditating? Like, why do you? So you talk through it with somebody, right, who has that knowledge and can work you through it. And now it's my favorite thing to do. It's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. I wake up. I love to sleep, by the way. I'm a night owl. I love to sleep in, but I set my alarm for 20 minutes earlier so that I know that I have that alone time where I can meditate and like set myself up for success for the day and get my energy right, right? Because if your energy is right, then your day is going to go right.
Let me just recap a little bit. She said a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of a recap here. She's had one migraine in a year since she started working with me. Okay. So,
and a minor one, which is
and a minor one. So that's important. So prior to that, she was having migraines on a regular basis. Okay. So one migraine in a year. Second thing, the migraine she had was much less severe than her standard migraine, and she has mitigation tools prior to, during, and after, which she didn't have before. Okay. And again, we're using migraines as an example, but we could use other things as an example. Other people may be suffering from other things, PTSD, anxiety, stress, etc. So there's a lot of different issues. This isn't just like a migraine cure video. This is an energy video on how it can be used in a lot of different areas of your life. Okay. So the concept of meditation she talked about, she was always frustrated with the meditation because she felt like she could receive information or receive messages, and those were always blocked. So she never got anything. So it's like, okay, well, why am I meditating? It's like other people, hear things or get visions and stuff. She's like, I get nothing. I just sit there and it's like, well, why am I doing this? That's third eye chakra block. Unblock the third eye, start to become more intuitive, start to become more in tune with your spiritual self, start to become more in tune with receiving downloads. And we can talk about that in other videos. But there's a lot to the energy work. It isn't just, I got a migraine, let's go see the migraine man and like get cured. There's other things to this.
Yeah. I mean, I would say any health issue is worth exploring this avenue, right? I mean, it's an untapped resource that people aren't utilizing, this energy work, right? It's like, first of all, what is energy and how can I utilize it and transform it? There's so much that can be done, that I think it can help pretty much anybody. Even if you don't have pain, how's your mental state? Are you happy? Do you feel like you're utilizing your full potential? I mean, the options are limitless for what you can do with this type of work. And so, yeah, on top of migraines, only having one, I can't remember the last time I had a headache. We were just talking to the other day, and I was like, I have this ibuprofen in my purse. So I was like, I don't remember the last time I had to take it. So I mean, it's been months and months to where even having a headache, I haven't had it, and that is completely life changing, right? And so for me, doing this work over the past year has completely transformed my life in every aspect, right? You build confidence. I can speak my voice. I can be authentic. and it's been well received by everybody, right? So what I was hiding from when I was trying not to express myself, it was actually a disservice to people, right? I'm just being a shell of myself. But now it's like that I've done this work. I mean, my husband noticed, my kids notice, at work they notice,
Your mom.
my mom notices, they're like, who is this girl? Like, who is this, like, this person who is like, who has completely transformed, right? And so for me, there has been so much good, and it's been so life-giving for me, that is my goal now, is to help other people do the same. I just experienced this over the past year. I remember how I was before. I get to experience how I am now. And so that is the gift for me, is I see the whole picture, right? And where a lot of you guys are probably at, I can feel that, because that was a short time ago for me. That was only a year ago. And then now I can see where you can get to, right? And then help people get there. And so that is what we're here to do. And that is our purpose.
Yeah, a lot of you are sitting there watching this and thinking, well, all right, that's all well and good. That's interesting, but what can these folks do for me? And that's what you need to be thinking about and contacting us in regard to, because a lot of people have issues that may be hidden trauma. Okay. It might be you have anxiety, you get panic
Mm-hmm.
attacks, you got relationship issues with your partner. You feel like you can't establish a close relationship with your partner and you don't know why. And your partner thinks you're defective and you think you're defective and you can't figure it out. Like Heidi was talking about, it's not just like, my migraines are gone and they're less than they were before. And now I don't speak with a strained voice. It's like, I told her when she started doing this energy work, I told you
Mm-hmm.
day one that this would help you in every
Mm-hmm.
aspect of your life. It will help you with your kids, with your family, with your relationships, with your health, everything. It's not just one thing. And a lot of people are totally unaware of pretty much everything we talked about in this video. They're unaware of chakras, they're unaware of energy work, they don't understand chakra clearing, chakra balancing, etc. It's all like black box. They never learned about it. It was never talked about. It seems strange and weird to them. But we're here to tell you that it is something that can help 95% of the population. So, this is our mission. This is why we started the Energy Alchemists, not for ourselves, but to help you.